Daktari will be on in a few minutes. I think in a minute or something.
Have you tagged me?
Hmm?
Did you tag me? Did you tag me on Facebook?
I think, let's see.
Yes, you did. Wow.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Again, we are sorry we're not able to come on time. A lot of things have been happening behind the scene, but finally we are here. I know we are not streaming from our page, Kara, but we will share it there. Just some technical difficulties, and we thought because of time, let's just dive in. All right, Karibuni Sana. Today I am joined by Dr. Kizi Shako. Karibu Sana Daktari.
Thank you so much.
Yes, most welcome. Let me tell you, I'm going to attempt, let's see, I'm going to attempt to read Daktari's, just to introduce Daktari to you. So Daktari is a mother. She's a forensic medical practitioner, forensic police surgeon, founder Vunja Kimia Foundation, where she does blogging and she does amazing stuff. You should visit there. And then she works for Ministry of Health and National Police Service. And my question to Daktari is, how are you doing with your 32 hours per day? Because clearly, some of us are not, talk to us about your 32 hours. Let's not do 24 hours. Daktari, how are you? Please introduce yourself further.
I think you did a good job. So, yeah, I'm pretty much a forensic medical practitioner, um, which is like a police doctor, a crime scene doctor. A lot of my work is to do with evidence collection from the human body, and mostly to do with the living injured rather than the dead.
Okay.
Most of the cases I deal with are sexual violence cases, child abuse cases, perpetrators, suspects, and a lot of court work and a lot of training as well.
Okay.
And then I added something to my job description, which is advocacy and,
Wow.
talking a lot about things that I think people should know. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. So today we want to talk about injury interpretation when it comes to sexual abuse. We know that so many things happen in the background that will build a case if someone wants to go the legal way, which we encourage them to do. But there's so much that you do in the background. But even before we get there, my question to you would be, how are you able to, how easy has it been for you to deal with, this is an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it. Is it easier for you to deal with cadaver or, um, um, the living witness? Is that, which one works for you, Daktari? Like, how do you manage doing this?
A very interesting question. And you're the first person to ask me that, which I
Oh,
like.
okay. Tell me.
Yeah. Uh, I'll be very honest. People may not like what I'll say, but I'll be honest. Dealing with when handling the living injured cases,
Sorry. I think Daktari hung. Hello? Are you there? Did we lose Daktari? Did we lose Daktari somewhere? Amazing, you're back. Did we lose you somewhere?
What happened?
I know, I know. Let's just keep going. Yes.
I'm sorry. So where was I? Where did you stop seeing me?
I was asking you, talk to us. Is it easier to deal with cadaver or the living injury? Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I was saying that I joined the field of forensics because of the dead. I prefer death investigations. I found that very interesting. And then somewhere along the way, found out there's a whole section of people who have not been addressed, their needs are not addressed adequately. So, you know, I spent almost 3 years working with the dead at City Mortuary, and I must admit, I really enjoyed my work. I loved going to crime scenes, I loved death scenes. It was very interesting. Then I was sent to the police surgery, and that's when I first came across now the child abuse cases, lots of domestic violence. Actually, for me in 2013, I was already like, we are in a crisis here. Is anyone looking at the statistics? Is anyone doing anything about it? Because the domestic violence was crazy. I was seeing about 20 patients a day. That's a lot, and that's Nairobi only. So,
Yeah.
and then dealing with the murder suspects, the rape suspects, child defilement cases. By then, there were about 4 a day. And it's much harder dealing with those who are alive because the pain is still present. You know, for them, the incident did not kill them, but it began a journey of pain, despair, anguish, shame, humiliation.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a very grueling process for these patients.
How are you able to isolate, because you get the for this for the specifically because of, you're talking about sexual abuse, you get the worst of both worlds. What I mean is, you get the worst of a survivor, you know, a victim who's a survivor because of all the pain and all the shame, exactly what you've talked about. And at the same time, you get the worst of the other world, the perpetrator, who comes in and probably has these injuries, and you need to somehow break them down so that someone is able to understand, for example, the legal bit of it, or when you're writing the doctor's reports. How are you able to balance it out as a medical doctor when you're looking at the injuries of the perpetrator and you're looking at the injuries of the living victim? How does that work for you? Because somehow you need to write a report that will be able probably to help them in the legal aspect.
So, first of all, you brought up a very significant dynamic. We as forensic practitioners, we are not the ideal situation. Actually, I'm not supposed to examine a victim or survivor and the suspect. That's not an ideal situation at all,
Okay. Okay.
because it places the examiner, myself, in a position where I may be forced to, I would really have to battle with my emotions to remain objective and all that. It's not ideal at all. It creates
Mm.
an environment for bias. You know, I've seen even many medics. I see a lot of their reports, and I can, from what I read and the history I'm given, I can see that there was some influence in what they wrote.
Yeah.
Whatever they documented is not objective. You can tell just by reading. So it's not ideal for one examiner to see both parties. Not at all. You should pick one.
Okay.
But you know, luckily for me, I didn't struggle with being objective. It's not been a struggle for me,
Okay.
for the most part. And then secondly, what we do is examine. Because of being able to be objective, I just examine and document whatever I find. I'm not skewed. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
What I document is not influenced by emotions. And so for that reason, I don't struggle with that at all when it comes to compiling a report. What the hell is going on with this thing?
I hear you.
I cannot see you.
Did I disappear somewhere? Can you see me now?
No, I can't. I don't know where you are. I
We
will
can
find
see
you.
you very well, Daktari. You're still on.
Already.
Yes, you are still on. We can see you very
Okay.
well.
I don't know where we are. Anyway, so what was
Uh-huh.
I saying? Yeah, I was just saying that my reports are not really influenced by what I see or what I'm told. It has to be based on what I find, and that's about it.
Okay.
And
Um,
where there's an issue with being objective, then I don't handle the case at all.
where you're not able to be objective.
Yeah.
Okay. In your again, you stand at a very unique space because you have to at times go to the courts to present your findings, the medical, legal, whatever lingo you use, but you have to go there and give out your findings. I don't know about you, but in my quest to fight for justice, and more specifically in my case, Carol Murani, for children, the times that I've had to go to court, I have seen people who, the perpetrator side, who throw insults at me and issue threats. I mean, it gets ugly, and I'm just there standing in so that this child is able to, to talk about their experience in a safe way, because now they know me as that caregiver at that particular point. So my question to you is, when you're doing that, when you have to go to the courts to stand in for something, how does that work for you? Because you do it almost on a daily basis. I was reading your blog and I could see at times you have to do 6 cases, at times you have to do 13 cases. How does that work for you? Do you receive the same amount of harassment, or how are you able to go about it? Do you have protection of some sort?
I do not have protection. I wish I did.
Uh-huh.
I don't have like a bodyguard or a firearm or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the ideal again. It would be ideal, but
Yes.
I pray a lot, and that's where I get my protection from, because this for me is more than a job. It's more like it's a passion, it's a calling. So I overlook a lot of things, and that's one of them. So there's no protection for me. But I've not really had issues as such, not really. So I'm not
Okay.
really worried about that. If
Mhm.
there's any harassment, it can happen occasionally. I'm harassed more by the officers involved in investigations and prosecution and all that, rather than the suspects or the victims or
Okay.
the survivors' families. It's more of, Daktari, you're needed in court. You're needed in court. Where are you? We are coming to arrest you. That's more of what I've actually been arrested,
Are you
not
serious?
once.
How does
Yeah.
that work?
Yes, you
how,
see,
how
you
does
see,
that?
you
Because you
see.
didn't go to court?
Yes, the workload is so high. So if I'm seeing, let's say I see 100 cases in a day, and there was a time I was seeing 120 plus cases in one day. Those are all, yeah, I know it's a lot. Those are all potential court cases. So there's no way in 5 years I can possibly attend to every single court case. It's impossible
Absolutely.
to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then because our systems are not really digitized, everything is kind of manual. So papers will get lost here, notifications will get lost there. Someone won't register that you were supposed to be in court on this day. There's a lot of gaps, in between the issuing of a court notification or summon to me getting it and being able to respond on time,
Yeah.
and actually being there. So what happens is the court understands that this expert witness has refused to come to court, and so we are going to issue a warrant of arrest to force them to come to court and
Mm. Mm.
explain why they did not come to court and actually proceed with the cases. And I understand where the court comes from, but
Okay.
it's really, what can I say? What can we do about it? It's very difficult, and so that's more where the strain comes from. But yeah, so sometimes the caseload can be, you know, 20 cases in a day. It's very high, which again is not ideal because you don't have time to really prepare for everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it taught me to work very and think very fast on my feet, which is a
Wow.
good thing.
The last time I checked, which was yesterday, unless a miracle happened today, you are the only lady police sergeant in Kenya. Is that still it?
Yes, I am.
Why do
Yes,
you think that's the
I'm
case?
the only female.
Why? How complicated is what you do, or how engaging? Why is it that you think you're the only lady who dared to go this route?
I have no idea. I don't think there's
Yes,
a reason. But we're only three police sergeants. There are three in the country.
in the
We are three.
country.
Yes, in Nairobi. And the reason is because, the police surgery or police clinic
Mm-hmm.
or police medical legal clinic
Yeah.
is just it came about a long time ago, I think in the 50s or something,
Mm-hmm.
colonial times.
Yeah.
Well, a long time ago. And that's because Nairobi did not have, at that time, this is what I understood, did not have a place that could conduct such examinations. But in the
Okay.
other districts or provinces, they had the medical officers in the public hospitals do the same work. And so that's how a police surgery was created in Nairobi, specifically for medical legal police work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do other things. There's no ward rounds, there are no clinics. It's
Yeah.
just forensic medical work. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know why it's not been expanded or
Yes.
devolved into all the counties. That would be really good for everyone though.
Yeah. But for that,
Mhm.
we say hats off, and we congratulate you for just daring to go in there. And I think that that female energy, so to speak, it's positive because we have a lot of injured who are actually the girl child. So I think that comes
Yeah.
in very, very handy in this particular field. Moving on, about how many people, specifically children, for today, for purposes of today's interview, specifically children, about how many children do you see in a day who have been defiled?
Mm, okay. I want to give statistics for this year.
Okay.
Maybe the years before. Um, about um 10, 15 in a day. Very
Sorry,
bad, I
in
know.
a day?
Yeah, between 8 and 15. That was by end of 2018. Then I took a break because I needed to um, manage my mental health. I didn't want to
Definitely.
get to to be sucked into it too much because
Yes.
I was it was taking a toll on me.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time it was 8 to 15 in one day. And that's just Nairobi alone. And those are just the ones those are the people that have made it past all the barriers and the
Exactly.
challenges to that stage, to the
Exactly.
stage of the police surgery or the P3 form.
Mm-hmm.
By then it's usually not so easy to get
Mm-hmm.
there. So I usually tell them, well done, you've made it this far. It's tough, I know, but just
Yeah.
don't give up. Yeah, so it's quite a lot. It's
That's
high.
that's a
The numbers
that's
are
a
high.
huge number for sure. Because do you think today we are there more cases being reported, or is it our gadgets have made it easier in your own view, the way you have seen things, you've worked with these people for quite some time, and just being in this field, in your view, do you think we've sensitized people enough, or we've taught people enough grassroots level that many people are coming forth to report? Or do you think because of smartphones, so a neighbor is able to report this or someone is able to take it up? What do you think in your own opinion?
I think I think because we don't really have the best data collection or research into that at the moment,
Exactly.
but I believe there's increased reporting. And this I know because a lot of people reach out to me through Facebook, Twitter,
Yes. Yes.
social media pages, just to try and get me to help their friend or themselves or their child
Yes.
or their neighbor's child. So there's a lot of that goes on, and
Mhm.
it's increasing with time. So
Yes.
people are more aware of their rights and bolder. They're
Mhm.
getting bolder and willing to risk to report even on behalf of someone else.
Mhm.
And there's definitely more reporting, and definitely the gadgets have made a big difference. And then with the COVID, I think because there's not the ability to go out to hospital,
Yeah.
many people will go to hospital. Some will not say what happened.
No.
They'll just say, the medical practitioner may not know if they're treating a sexual offense patient.
Mhm.
They'll go with some other story. So because of that, there's more people will go directly to the hospital and not really make a formal report like at a police station.
Yeah.
Um, or yeah, exactly. And that's because of the timelines and everything. You have to be able to do it early enough before the curfew happens and all that. So that I think all that has made more reporting. Um, has made it that there's more reporting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. You please walk us through. At times we think it's, if someone goes through rape, you think it's easier. Maybe I know I will need to go to the hospital first, or you go to the hospital, they say you needed to see the police, go write a statement and things like that. Could you please walk us through what one needs to do? I have just, I've been defiled for age purposes, or I have been raped. What happens? What is the procedure? Where should I go first? What should I look out for to enable me in your interpretation of injury not to distort that? What's the procedure?
Okay, so that's a very commonly asked question.
Yes.
It's not possible to give a specific way things should be done, because every response is dependent on the dynamics and the environment in which someone finds themselves in. So if someone is, you know, running after you with a knife in their hands, don't go to a hospital, run to a police station.
That's
you
true.
know
That's true.
exactly. So it depends on safety and security. That's what I tell everyone. Just how safe are you? If your safety is not really at risk at that moment in time, then the best place to go always would be the hospital, because you have, for two reasons: medical treatment.
Mm-hmm.
um, so what happens is there must be medical treatment given. The sooner it's done, the better. And there's only 72 hours in which one can be given emergency contraceptives and HIV prophylaxis.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those things have a timeline. So it's best to go to the hospital first so that you can get that treatment. And also for the forensic arm of things, with every second, every moment that passes after the incident occurs, evidence is being lost. And it's in
Yes.
forensics that the access to justice lies. So if the evidence is not managed properly or immediately, it gets lost. It gets lost, and a lot of times this is what the criminal justice system officers are always complaining about. There wasn't enough evidence. There wasn't enough evidence. So it's always best to go to a hospital first where possible for the medical treatment and for the forensic evidence to be collected.
Okay.
And the sooner it's done, the better. Don't
Yes.
shower, don't change, just go the way you are. It's very difficult. I've met several survivors who will tell me that they know they shouldn't shower, they know they shouldn't change, but they did it anyway because
Absolutely. Feel
they just
dirty.
couldn't stay like that. And I understand. It's
Yes.
fine. If that happens, just carry your things and take them with you to the hospital so that they can be packaged and placed aside for the police to come and collect them.
In Kenya, do we have semen collection, DNA, so to speak, that, someone can actually say, hey, this is what happened in the case of a man, raping a woman. Do we have that? Are we, have we gotten to that level where we can check on that DNA and say, yes, this is the person who did it? Or do we, at one point I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that we normally send to South Africa. Where are we at when it comes to that?
Okay. Yes, we have. Okay. There's been a lot of talk of forensic labs, crime
Yes,
labs.
yes.
But the truth is, there's been forensic analysis going on for a very long time at the government chemist. The government chemist. So the government chemist has forensic biologists
Okay.
who analyze bodily fluids for DNA and other samples that may be provided to them for DNA. So it's been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, if in the case of a sexual offense case, some of the things collected are things like vaginal swabs, anal swabs, or
Yeah,
evidence of someone else's DNA being within, on top of the victim or the survivor.
yeah.
And these swabs, in the ideal situation, should then be preserved, packaged properly, and handed over to the police,
Mm-hmm.
who will then take the swab to the government chemist for analysis.
Yeah.
And they will run a DNA, they will try to run a DNA profile based on what they are given. So the quality of the sample provided also depends on how much they can do. If they don't work much, if they don't work much,
Mm-hmm.
that's not good, then there's not much they can do about it. But they're the ones who can run it and generate a DNA profile, and all that will end up in court one day.
Yes. Once, let's talk about court. You as a medic, is there any time where in your interpretation of injury, let's say someone has been assaulted today, sexually abused rather today, and have you ever found a scenario where you have to check the person tomorrow or a month later because of any difference with the injury, so that down the line when we go to the legal battle, there's no change. You can say that, the doctor wrote this, but then after a week, this changed, medically speaking, with the injury that I got. Have you ever received such a case where then it is necessary when a rape survivor comes, you check them today and then you check them in a week's time to have maybe a full report or a better report? Do you have something like that?
Well, that would be again the ideal. It would be very,
Aha.
yes, it
Yes.
is.
Okay.
Actually, we are encouraged to examine injuries on day one and then maybe 3 days later, because injuries change with time.
Whoa. Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they are more pronounced. Yeah, sometimes they are more pronounced. You'll get like bruises, for example. A
Mm-hmm.
bruise is when there's blunt trauma or blunt impact to an area of the body
Mm-hmm.
that then tearing of blood vessels underneath the eye, for example. You know what we call
Yeah.
a black eye? It's
Yes.
actually a bruise. It looks different with time. How it will look today is different from how it will appear in 3 days, different from how it will appear in a week's time.
Yeah.
It will become more pronounced with time. It will change color. Eventually, it will fade away and
Mm-hmm.
go back to normal. It's very important in our field of forensic medicine to be able to capture all that. But unfortunately, that's not possible
Yeah.
at the moment in our setting. To get a
Yeah.
survivor to go calm, I've only managed to do that about 3 times. It's very
Okay.
difficult on them. It's time consuming. It's traumatic. So, for survivors, I don't really insist on it. I have to, I weigh them. I see, will this one be able
Okay.
to come back or not? Yeah, so I've managed to capture photos once, or on 3 occasions in my entire time as a police surgeon. And the other thing is, I think I'll just mention now,
Mm-hmm.
what happens in Kenya. Okay, let me say Nairobi.
Yeah.
Let me use Nairobi as an example.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have, there are 2 stages for a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
After reporting, the first one would be, let's say, reporting to a medical facility.
Okay.
to have medical treatment, and where possible, specimens collected and documented on what we do call a post-rape care form or any other form available.
Mm-hmm.
And that will document the history in brief, injuries that may have been sustained, evidence that may have been collected, and the treatment given. Then they need another form to be filled called the P3 form, or the Kenya Police Medical Report form.
Yes.
That is done at the police surgery or any public medical facility, public
Okay.
hospital.
Uh-huh.
So that's a second examiner. Many times that is another examiner or another person who is going to do that.
Yeah.
So for me, what would happen is they would be brought to the police surgery, the survivors or the suspects, and I would examine again, because I can't, for me to document anything, I have to see for myself.
Exactly.
Now, the issue with that is that you have the first examiner's findings and then Dr. Kizi's findings, which were found a week later.
Yeah.
And they may be completely different. Sometimes they are similar, sometimes they are different.
Yeah.
And this can create some confusion in court, just because some things like injury healing, wound healing is not understood by the layman. So yeah, that can create some confusion in court, but it just needs to be explained properly. I think if someone just explains why there's a difference, then it shouldn't be so confusing.
Okay. Secondary victimization clearly would, might come up when you're talking. I'm thinking as a survivor that this person saw me, this doctor saw me, then I get to this other doctor seeing me, and then there's the police, and then there's such a long, it's such a long process and a very hurtful time. And what then would be the solution in your opinion? How else would we cut this process not to be so long and to be kind to the victim so that they are not, this second victimization all the time it's happening? How else then can we shorten this so that either we see one person or two at most? Because trying to rebuild your life as a survivor, it's such a daunting task. What can be done to narrow this process or to shorten this process?
So yes, it's actually it's a very fragmented system. Exactly. The service providers are all over. You have the hospital, police, psychologists are separate. The children's officers are elsewhere. I really do feel sorry for survivors.
Yes.
Bleak, at least there's people who are willing to help them walk through this journey. So one of the things that has been spoken a lot about is a one-stop center. I'm sure you've heard about this on and off, here and there. A one-stop center where survivors will just stop once. We do have some organizations calling themselves one-stop centers, but they are not. They're not really one-stop centers, because the survivor still has to go from point A to B to C.
Exactly.
A one-stop would be having everyone under one roof, preferably. Actually, the only way it should be is to have all the people working within the one-stop center to be highly trained, highly specialized officers, whether it's the police, legal officers, the forensic practitioners. Of course, forensic doctors are very difficult to find, but training can be done for, as long as medics are trained, they'll know what to do. So that's one of the key things. There has to be training that goes together with the one-stop center model, so that all the relevant stakeholders and key players are under one roof. So the survivors should be able to report, get the occurrence book number, get the police statement, see the forensic medical practitioner or the nurse or whoever is specially trained for this work, because you do need specialized training. That is something that people don't seem to appreciate. And then get everything done and leave once and for all, not going and coming back all the time. And I truly believe this is possible. I'm convinced it can be done. It's not impossible. That would really reduce the time they spend getting all the documents they need to put together a police file and go to court. It will reduce the victimization, the victim fatigue, and enhance the healing process for these survivors and their confidence as well. If you
Yeah.
have someone who you know knows what they're doing, then you'll be more confident and probably more hopeful about how your case would end.
Mhm. I
Mm.
totally agree. And I hold hands with you and say, yes, it should be done. Yes, it's possible. Because being a survivor, I know what it is to walk that journey and not being able to just sort it out in the shortest time possible because you're already feeling this heavy burden on you and you just want to move on. But then there's so many, as you said, it's quite fragmented and we need a streamlined kind of a system.
Yeah.
Daktari, another question I have for you is could you please dissect for us the difference in these three words? There's sexual harassment, there's sexual abuse, and there's sexual assault. What are the major differences in these three words? Sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and sexual assault? Because I'm sure we use it carelessly. Maybe I've used it right now. You're looking at me thinking, uh-huh. So could you please walk us through what was the difference?
So, yes, these terms are used interchangeably everywhere,
Yes.
um, which is fine. I mean, we understand what is being discussed.
Mm-hmm.
So, in usually this term sexual assault, globally, I've noticed that, like in Kenya, let me say in Kenya, people will use sexual assault to mean a sexual assault on a person below them or junior to them.
Hello, Daktari.
Exactly what it is, just kind of an umbrella term.
Mm-hmm.
But in Kenya, sexual assault is a very specific offense in the Sexual Offences Act
Mm-hmm.
and is not the same as rape, is not the same as incest, it's not the same as defilement, it's sexual
Yes.
assault on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So here it's better to say sexual offense or sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Kenya, a sexual assault is when there is penetration of genitalia without using genitalia. So
Oh,
like one person's genitals are penetrated, but not by another person's genitals. So for example, if um, there's insertion of, let's say, a pen into the
yes.
vagina, for example,
Yes.
that's sexual
Mm-hmm.
assault.
Okay.
Yeah. Then sexual harassment again is a very specific term, very specific definition in the Sexual Offences Act, and it refers to harassment along power lines. So if, for example, my senior colleague or my
Yes.
boss, someone in a position of authority is
Mm-hmm.
seeking sexual favors from a person below them or junior to them.
Yeah.
That's a good example to use.
Mm-hmm.
That is sexual harassment.
Okay.
Then sexual abuse is more of an umbrella term, just like GBV or sexual and gender-based violence is umbrella term for anything that is sexual in nature.
Okay.
So it's not specific. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's the difference
That's a
in
different.
summary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. So has there been a time where a lady specifically has come to you and said, this happened to me. I was raped. And you cannot see any injury. There is no visible injury that you can see. What happens? How do you interpret this? Where do we go from here where you cannot see anything, but someone says, I was raped. What happens in this case?
Okay. I didn't hear everything. Did you ask me? Is there a time? What happens when there's no physical injuries in a
Exactly.
rape case?
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, okay, rape being in Kenya, rape is when the victim or survivor is an adult, so
Yes.
over 18 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
So many times you will not find injuries. Injuries are not always present.
Yes.
And there's a lot of weight placed on finding injuries.
Injury.
I don't know about other settings, but here at home, there's a lot of weight placed on that. How was the hymen? Were there injuries? Was it
Exactly.
broken? was
Yes.
was
Yes.
she a virgin? Was
Mm-hmm.
she not? There's all these myths and misconceptions about the genital injuries.
Mm-hmm.
But genital injuries are not always present, especially in an adult who's probably already had sexual encounters before.
Absolutely.
You may
Yes.
not find any injuries with the naked eye. Secondly, if there injuries can be present, may be present even during consensual intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
So what this
Uh-huh.
basically means is that finding injuries or not finding injuries, it's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
Genital injuries, that is. So there should be more time should also be spent looking at other aspects of this incident, and
Yeah.
maybe other injuries like injuries of the wrist, for example, or defense injuries to show that this person may have been fighting. But again, most women don't have a single injury, not
Yeah.
a single one. There's
Yeah.
nothing to see. Even
Mm-hmm.
adolescent girls, you may not find anything at all. So that doesn't mean nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there could be an injury, but it was not a rape incident. So,
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Have you ever come across a time where a perpetrator has told the story out of the injuries that you have seen on the body? Has there been a time where this specifically this lady said, "Hey, this is what happened to me. I was raped, blah blah blah," and then the gentleman that they're saying is the culprit in this case says no, that did not happen. But then you find an injury. Have you come through such a case?
Um, yes, but in that one, the survivor, well, the victim was not alive. It was
Uh,
really warped. Yeah, so like what you're asking is, have you ever found corroborative evidence
Absolutely,
or
yes.
rarely? I can
Really?
think of maybe three times off the top of my head, and that's
Mhm.
because they were very dramatic.
Okay.
So there was this, for example, there's this one case where this man was accused of defiling a girl, and she apparently was on her menses during the time, and whoever caught him in the act, he was
Mm.
caught in the act allegedly, also beat him up. So
Okay.
this is what I was told. And then when I examined the suspect, he had later found to be her blood. And then he had injuries all over his head, which, tied in with the history I was given that he was assaulted by whoever caught him in the act.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get that kind of information, which is why suspects should be examined. You get very good evidence that can support a history given. Yeah, and another one, this someone he was accused of murder, and
Hmm.
he apparently he did something to this female, and he said he gave me the history that she hurt him on a particular area of his body,
Yeah.
and when I examined that area, there was actually an injury there. So those happen very far and wide apart. You usually don't get any injury or anything to see or
To go by.
collect,
Okay.
especially on perpetrators or suspects.
Oh,
Very rarely.
all right.
Mm.
Dr. Kizi, you have Vunja Kimya Foundation, where you take time to school common mwananchi, on some of the things that they can avoid or evade.
Mm.
What was the main purpose what was the driving force when you decided to start this Vunja Kimya Foundation and for you to start writing blogs? What was it that you saw that drove you to do something so that the public can be able to benefit from your expertise?
So in the first, I started writing articles in what 2015, And that by then I'd worked in this field for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, like I told you a few minutes ago, I was really distressed.
Yes.
I was distressed. I was disturbed because I was like, what is going on in this country?
Yeah.
Is anyone aware of the madness I'm seeing?
Mm-hmm.
And by then I figured there's, you know, I need to say something. I can't just
Yeah.
keep watching.
Yeah.
And I would, come across the histories I'd be given would be histories that make me think, like let's say a woman comes and tells me she met a stranger and they went to her house together. In my mind, I'm thinking, how do you take a stranger to your house? Why would you do such a thing?
Mm.
And other such things which to me are obviously dangerous things to do. But then I realized others may not see the danger in it. A lot of the defilement cases would be children who have been left with the mother's new boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
some people she barely knows,
Yeah.
or the neighbor outside who's a young man that no one knows about, or just not understanding the signs of a child who is reaching or crying for help. I've seen people who have beat up their children to discipline them
Yeah.
because they are being rebellious. And to me, that's a cry for help. I'm thinking, well, of course, your child will behave like that if
Mm.
this and this and this is going on in their lives. There's no
Mm.
dad is not around, mom is
Yeah.
never there. So I decided to just talk about it and
Mm-hmm.
put this all on paper. What pushed me over the edge was when a lady did that. She let a stranger into her home, someone she met online, and she has 3 daughters. I was really disturbed by that. Yeah,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
ended up, this stranger took her, abducted her, he raped her and returned her home. And by then he already knew where she lives, he knows how many children she has, he knows where to get them. So that's what made me start everything and just start talking about it. That
Mm-hmm.
was it. Yeah, and it's
Okay.
it's just something I'm very passionate about.
Okay. So from the foundation, that is Vunja Kimia, you're able to visit organization schools and to train them. Is that something you do?
Currently, well, I do a little bit of training
Okay.
as Bunja Kimia, a lot more training as Dr. Kizi.
Aha. Yeah.
But yeah, I wear many hats, so
Yes.
sometimes they merge into one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do visit schools and I've given a few talks here and there just to encourage, to share information, to highlight key areas that to me I think are crucial, like for child abuse, where child abuse is concerned. I do go to, there's a particular home that Wunjakimia is very passionate about supporting
Mm-hmm.
for sexually abused girls.
Yeah.
We have trained on self-defense as well.
Mm-hmm.
So self-defense training is something I'm also very interested in. And this
Mm-hmm.
is something Hunjakimia also does occasionally, once in a
Okay.
while. When it's possible to do that, we will conduct a
Mhm.
self-defense training. So yeah,
Yeah.
I am involved in a lot of trainings and information sharing, and more so on rapid response to people in distress. That is
Mhm.
what keeps Funjakimia very busy,
Yeah.
most busy.
Okay. Daktari, what my child can be coming to me and tells me maybe I'm having a stomachache, or when a child is not able to truly express themselves. And in this particular case, the child would have gone through defilement. What are some of the things when it comes to injury that you can actually see physical injury? What are some of the things as a parent, as a guardian, you should be able to look at your child and say this is off? Or what are some of the pains that you've come across that should lead a guardian to stop on their tracks and say something is off here and I need to take this child to seek medical help? What are some of the things that you've seen in practice?
So some of the things for children, let's talk about injuries first.
Yes.
You'd have what I have heard of most is when a child does not want to be given a bath, suddenly does not want a bath,
Mm-hmm.
is in pain when bathed,
Yeah.
is struggling with passing urine,
Mm-hmm.
yes, or complains of pain.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when your child says that they are having pain when passing urine, you must ask them, has anyone touched you? Don't bury your head in the sand. Just ask and teach
Get
them
to, yes.
you shouldn't be touched here and there. And if anyone touches you here and there, that should be immediately told to you as the guardian.
Mm-hmm.
Another would be injuries in the mouth, behind the lips. That should ring bells. That would normally be seen in a school. A lot of times, it's schools and teachers that inform who are the informants, not really the parents. So it's something that even schools should be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and injuries around the inner thighs. Anything suspicious in the inner thighs should also be picked up.
Okay.
Fingertips should be
Mm-hmm.
picked up very quickly. And again, I say this may not be seen by parents.
Yeah. Okay.
By others. Yeah. Then behavior-wise, there's withdrawal. The child suddenly doesn't want to talk, to engage, is very sad all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I've seen and heard of children who just run out of the house and hide under a shed or under a car. Very bizarre behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, children complaining of stomach pain. Stomach pain is very, very common. In fact, some studies have shown that most times you have stomach pain complaints, it's a psychological issue, not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
stomach issue.
Okay.
And so that should always alert parents. Just stop
Mm-hmm.
and ask what's going on. Mouth ulcers,
Oh.
ulcers in the mouth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Refusing to eat, masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of this quite a bit, especially with the females. I'm not sure if it's because when they do it is
Mm-hmm.
in the open. I don't know why it's more with females in my experience. School
Mm-hmm.
performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is the most important thing a guardian could be able to do to their child is to communicate whenever
Yes.
they see this kind of thing. So talk to your child, dig deeper, because I know many times we want to gloss over something and just wish it away, because I think we hate to come head on with what we consider to be so ugly with our children, and
Yes.
especially when we just imagine that it could be a close relative, because in these cases we have seen that many perpetrators end up being someone very close to the child, or even blood related, which then ends up being something that many of us would just want to bury our heads in the sand. Let's talk about crime scene even as we wind up. Let's talk about crime scene. How has that played out for you when it comes to interpretation of injury? But now we are talking about the scene. So maybe in this case, a cadaver. How do you go about it? Oh, Dr. Tari, I don't know how you manage, but just yeah, tell us. Did we lose Dr. Tari again? Dr. Tari, are you there? Even as we wait for Daktari, hoping that she will be able to get her network
I'm
back
so
up
sorry.
and running. Oh, you
I'm
can
back.
hear? Awesome. Yes, yes, all right. Please tell
I'm
us,
so
tell
sorry.
us. Yeah, no problem. Yes.
Before I fell off the radar.
Uh-huh. Are you there? Yes, you're back.
I can see you, by the way.
All right.
Okay, so please repeat the question.
Yes. Crime scene. How do you go about crime scene, looking at all that is displayed before you? I am just thinking how gory that can be. And maybe even in this case, there's a cadaver lying there. Are you, in your line of practice, are you supposed to, or are you well equipped to work with the cadaver and the crime scene? Is that all incorporated in your belt, given all the titles that you carry, or are you just strictly there looking at the survivor to tell, sorry, the cadaver to tell the story, or it's all incorporated in the crime scene? Daktari, I think Dr. Kiz's network is really giving us a hard time. Let's hope she will be able to join us. I think you've heard, and I'm just encouraging you just to reiterate on what Dr. was talking about earlier, how important it is to talk to specifically our children, because Carol Murani really deals with children who've gone through sexual abuse. And in this stage, we're dealing with girls simply because we're not able to mix them up, as it would not be right. So I'm just encouraging you to be able to reach out to your child, talk to your child, find out what is happening. Dr. has told us several things that we're able to look at our child and say, hey, this is something is wrong here, including mouth sores, mouth ulcers, something that I would not even think about. But then there's so much to go by. Look at your child and be able to talk to your child, find out what is going on here. How did you do this? What happened here? And remember to speak child language. One of the things physically that you can do when you're speaking to your children is to go down to their level. I know many times parents speak over their children. So you're standing and you're looking at the child down there. But that's not the way to go. Go down to the level of the child, or pick up the child and put them at a level whereby it's eye to eye. You know, you're looking at each other and talk to the child. Remember, this coming from last week, we were saying that many times we are not able to, many times a rapist is someone terrible until the rapist ends up being your husband, being your son, being the mother, being you know, an aunt. That's when the rapist, now you put a beautiful face and say, hey, we will talk about it. I'm talking about this because I've seen it even in Carol Murani, where we are trying to talk to a guardian about the child, and then because it touches so close home, it's blood related. You decide, you know, we will work it out on our own. Bribes start crossing hands, changing hands, and then the case is just dropped. Remember, the victim is the one who will get hurt, and this is a lifelong kind of a jail that you're trying to put this victim in. So I would encourage us to say something about it. I launched a hashtag the other day, about 2 weeks now, and I said, remember Till. This is a hashtag that I would encourage you to share randomly. It just says, remember Till. Till is the color that represents rape survivors, you know. It's teal that talks about rape. And this color should be able to push you to do one of these three things. You either report something, you just take time and report. You don't have to put yourself in harm's way, or you protect. If you're there and there's something you can do at that time, you can see a child has just been taken away. If you can do something, protect, shout, scream, do something. Or the third thing, support. Support. You can support in several ways. You can support financially. You can support in prayer if you're a person of prayer. You can support by reporting. I mean, just do some form of support. I want to say thank you, even as I wind up this live show, because so many people have been getting in touch with me inbox. And I'm talking about countrywide, worldwide, people who have gone through it. I'm talking about survivors who are reaching out for help and saying, okay, this happened when I was a child, or this happened 2 weeks ago. How do I go from here? Number two, I've gotten people who are reporting. I must say thank you, thank you, thank you. People who are coming forward and saying, hey, I am in this county, I am in this country, this is what is happening, how can you help? That goes a long way. I might not be able to get to you, but I have connection. There is a network that we work closely with, that I'm able to say something and someone is able to reach out and bring help. Please reach out, report someone. You can do it on my personal page. You can do it on Kara's page. For those of you who, all Twitter handles, Kara Murani or Terry Gobanga, we will be able to reach out. Dr. Kizi Shako is doing an amazing job. Kindly follow her, watch out, read her blogs on Vunja Kimya. That's something I would encourage you to do. Yes, we also write blogs with Carol Murani, and we have a different angle as well. And I want to encourage you, read Dr. Kizi Shako's blog in Vunja Kimya. She will be able to help you. She'll be able to walk you through what happens. We'll be able to write all these things down. And Dr. Kizi has done so many things. The blog post will be able to show you. It's www.vunjakimya.com. You'll be able to get more information there and read through. When you read this blogs, you will be able to have a quiet that will tell you when something is off, what to look out for, whether it is for yourself, whether it is for your children, how best to protect your children. And when I say children, it's not just biological children. I'm talking about your niece and your nephews. So many things are happening out there that you and I can actually come in, bridge the gap, so that we're able to stop more rape from happening. This has been Terry Gobanga, your host. Kara Olmurani, the one that is bringing you all this information, simply because we have seen so much that is happening out there. We are a safe house for children under the age of 12, girls in this season, I must say, simply because of the fact that we cannot mix them up. But join us in the fight of protecting our children. There are many stakeholders out there doing different things to better the lives of our children, but we cannot do it on our own. We need everybody to plug in. We need one member in your family to plug in, 2 members in your family to plug in. If every family is represented in a way or another when it comes to the fight for our children's lives, sexually abusing our children, that we are not headed to a very good community of people when we are attacking our children, because this is our next generation. Please join in. Let's protect our children. Remember, Teal, protect, report, or support. God bless you. Let's see you next Wednesday for another Warrior Wednesday. We are the winning warriors. See you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.